So first of all, I want to say a big thank you to you for what you're doing to organize us and help us identify these problems and find ways to solve these problems. Uh, and also, I want to say a big thank you to the guys who have spoken before, from the first to the last person that just spoke. It's been awesome. It's been very educative. And I am glad I can add my voice to theirs. I may not say something or a lot of things that may be different from what they've said, but I deem it a pleasure to be here again. And growing up, one of the people that I grew up to see as a leader is my father. My father, I grew up to see my father leading, and he's still leading up to today. And one thing I noticed was something he had, a poem. I do music, and I am kind of drawn to the poetry part of life, and it helps me to learn. So in my speech, I'm going to read out a few things from a poem that I inherited from my father, called "Be a Leader, Not a Boss." Many of us may have heard about this poem, and it's going to help me kind of identify a few problems that I think if we are able to solve in Nigeria as a country and in Africa as a whole, things may get better. So identifying problems is key, because one thing that can hinder progress is not knowing that we have problems. So if we're able to identify our problems, we can make headway because we can find solution to those problems. All right. So personally, one of the problems I identified was not having the ability or the desire to read. And that was what brought me to this forum. I had big problems reading. And when I saw the forum and knew that I could get books to read, it helped me a lot to improve myself as a songwriter and as a person as well. And I'm not yet consistent in doing this, but consistency is key, because that's one of the things that I've learned in one of the books that I started reading recently. So I'm going to take the first part of the poem that says, "A boss knows everything." So people who we have today that refer to themselves as leaders are, in my opinion, bosses and rulers, just like other people have described them. They are rulers and bosses, and they think they know everything. And that is the reason why they find it difficult to give young people the opportunity to contribute to government, because they would ask you, what do you know? They think you know nothing about politics, you know nothing about governance. Not knowing that leadership in all its ramifications has nothing to do with age. I have people who are quite old, who may be older than the current leaders we have in Nigeria today, but they are doing awesomely well. And I also know of young people who are doing marvelously well in all they do. All right. And so leaders don't think this way. Leaders admit mistakes and want to make corrections. But in Nigeria today, when things go wrong, nobody agrees to be at fault. Everybody is right. And when we think we're right, it becomes very difficult to make changes. And this goes ahead to affect everything else we do as leaders, in quote. The second point I'd like to make is that bosses tell people what to do. They tell people what to do. They don't show you how to do those things. All right. So the kind of leaders or the kind of people we have in power today in my country, Nigeria, and across Africa, are the kind of people who give instructions. They tell you what to do. They don't show you how to do it. Growing up, I've come to know that when you tell people what to do without showing them how it is done, they do it the way they know best to do it. So in this case, they don't really owe you any apologies when they make mistakes. But when you show them how to do it and they do it, Oh, am I muted?
No,
Can
no,
you hear
you are
me?
good. You are good. You are good. Very
Ah,
loud
okay.
and clear. Beautiful comments you are
Okay.
making. Mm.
All right, thank you. So when you show people how to do things, then they become answerable to you. They will be able to give a report at the end of the day. But when you tell them and you go back and sit back and watch from a distance, they do what they think they can do, which is right. And they owe you no apologies at the end of the day. So we should start to think about leaders who can show, who know what to do, because it's one thing to know how to do something before you be able to show people how to do it. So we should get leaders who know how to do these things and show other people how to do them. By saying this, I am not saying we should have godfathers, because that's one big problem we have. All right. We should have mentors, just like what you're doing right here. You have been a mentor since I came to know you, starting from the time you were doing relationship talks. One of your books that I read actually helped me to grow relationship wise. All right. It helped me a lot in my love life. I'm a testimony to that. So
Well,
we
I think
should,
you're going to talk about that with us one day. Will you do that?
yes,
Tell us
I
how
will.
the book helped you.
I will. I will.
Okay.
I'll be very glad to do that. So we should find leaders who know what to do, who can mentor in the right way, not the ones that will lead us astray, because that's what we have right now. People who are leading us the wrong way. And because of godfatherism, everybody who is good, who gets into power or who gets into the system, becomes just like them. Because that there is just a little that you can do to change what is, to change the status quo. All right. So we should look for leaders who can show us how to do things. And when they tell us how to do things, we can now answer back at the end of our jobs by giving reports and receive the appreciation that is necessary for such. Because when you tell someone how to do something, the person does it and reports back. You must give compliments to encourage them to do more in the future. But that's not what we have in the kind of leaders we have today in Africa. Another one says, a boss criticizes, but a leader gives advice. So we have bosses, we have rulers who will criticize you, even though they don't know what they're doing, even though they don't know how to do the things you're supposed to do. But when you make mistakes, they criticize you. But that's not how leaders react. Leaders call you and advise you and tell you the right way to do it the next time so you can bring the desired result. The next point says a boss gives orders. This ties to the second one. They just give orders, but a leader gives direction. A leader gives direction. For me, leadership is the act of helping a group of people who have similar ideas, who have a defined goal to get to their destination. You know, not minding the challenges that may come. Being a leader gives you that ability to help them, encourage them, give them direction, uh, and take them to the desired destination. But we don't have such leaders. We have people who give orders, who order the military to go kill people, who want you to keep quiet and don't say anything about the things that are going on in government. Uh, who don't want you to protest. They order you to keep quiet. That's the kind of people we have in power. But that is not what we need as leaders. So I'm talking from the perception of we who are youths who would like to get into power to know what we need, to equip ourselves to become leaders and not rulers or bosses, as the case may be. All right. So the next one says a boss demands respect, but a leader earns it. Respect is not demanded, it's actually earned, through your service. I used to tell friends when we talk politics that if our leaders do what is right, if our leaders give us the basics of life, if our leaders can lead us the right way, they don't need to campaign, they don't need to be in a political party. okay, they need to be in a particular party to qualify to be leaders, but they don't really need a godfather to tell them what to do to win elections. No, they don't. The people will see the good works and put them back in power if necessary. So they shouldn't be expecting us to respect them, to call them the leaders, which they think we should call them when they are rulers. No, you have to show us that you're a leader through your actions before we can actually make this happen in real life. And that takes me to the next point that says a boss rules with threats, not law. And that's what we get. That's exactly what's happening in Nigeria right now. Threats against the youths, threats against anybody who wants to speak out, and it is not good at all. That is not what we need. If we keep going through this path, I tell you, we'll keep going backwards instead of going forward. The first point I made was leaders not knowing everything, accepting when they make mistakes. No. But what we have in the country, Nigeria and Africa, is when people make mistakes, when people steal our money and you talk, they threaten you. If you're not careful, you lose your life. A lot of people have lost their lives in this struggle, and that is because of the kind of people we have bossing us around and ruling us and not leading us. So leadership is quite important. We need leaders and not bosses. A leader shows human kindness. A leader comes to talk to their people when it's time. We have rulers who, during campaigns, can go to every part of the country possible to make promises that will never be fulfilled. But when they start making mistakes, they will never come out to talk to their people. They become kings and sit in their palaces and create rules and create problems for the people in the grassroots. And that's a huge problem. Now, a boss depends on hearsay. Bosses also depend on hearsay. They never investigate. This is very clear in the last problems in the last problem we had in Nigeria during the NSAS protest. People were killed, and it took a long time to hear from the leaders. They tell us they are investigating, but we had to rely on videos coming from protesters and even from CCTV cameras to ascertain what really happened, even though they denied from the beginning every aspect of it. So it's a huge problem that we have in the country. But I think as we prepare as youths, because I believe it's time for us to stand up and take the country back and take Africa back. If we are going to do this, we must have this rethink in our own small places that we lead, because we are all supposed to be leaders in our little places. As a musician, I do everything on my own right now because I'm still operating at a very small scale. But I'm a leader in my own little space. I have a family. I'm a leader in my family. So we are leaders in one aspect or the other. So we should ask ourselves, are we really leading, or are we bosses in disguise? I think that's how far I would like to go with my speech today. I hope we'll have other opportunities to broaden this topic because it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is awesome, my dear friend Sampson. This is very powerful, and I think this is at the core of the issues that brought us to this conference. We need to X-ray all the problems. As we X-ray them, it will lead us to seek for the solution. And you have been able to provide very effectively from the two parts, from the two angles, the problems and the prospects. Okay. Now, but this one is coming from my person. In Africa, the old people who have access and kept power or seized power and are keeping it by all means, they seem united. But the young people who need to cause the change, who need to influence the change, are not united. Are there any thoughts you have that can help the young people come together? Maybe one knowledge that needs to be passed is the fact that in Nigeria, and this have been found out in other African countries, the politically, those who are politically called youth, which is up to 45 years of age, and even if you remove them and just simply put those who are rising generations, which is 12 to 30, they are known in the population figures, in the statistics, to be close to 60% of the population. Okay, so it means a few people, fewer than 40%, are united against 60%. What is there any counsel or ways you have for these 60% that can help them wake up from their sleep and begin the journey to change the scenario?
Great. That's a wonderful question there. I think the leading class, or the ruling class, the politicians have found several ways to divide us. They found several means to keep dividing the young people, keep dividing those who want a better Africa, a better country, Nigeria, through the different means. But one of the means they do this is by making sure that education doesn't work in Africa. Because it's only when people are educated, they know their rights, and they can fight for it. But when you're not educated, you don't know your right, you can never fight for it. So that's one aspect that they have succeeded, that they've used to divide the young people. And this is why self-development self-development is very, very important. We have it in us, be it leadership, be it the skills we need to grow, to become great people. They are all embedded in us. But the ruling class have made the environment so unconducive that sometimes we don't even see the potentials that we have. So I think young people should begin to look within and begin to try to develop themselves as much as possible, right? As much as they can. Reading books, like you've always advised me to do,
Mhm.
trying to do everything to educate yourself. Self-education is the only thing that I see in Africa that can push us ahead. Because if you rely on the schools, you're just going to be the same. All right, the schools don't offer us anything. You don't learn anything from the schools. I remember a very sad experience. I was privileged to go to India for a training, and during my training, I was able to produce something very tangible. After a few months, probably 2 months, I produced a power pack that can power a medical equipment. Now, when I came back, I saw my junior brother who have spent a lot of time in the university or in the polytechnic in Nigeria produce an amplifier, and he was happy. And I began to check. 2 weeks, I was able to make a power pack. After 3 or 4 years, he was able to make an amplifier, and he's happy. And that's what they do to us. You know, when you are able to achieve a little, you think that's all you have. But I know that youths, young people in Africa, has got what it takes to push forward, to become better. They've also used hunger. They've also used hunger and poverty to manipulate us, so that when it's time for them to go about their negative intentions, they can bring peanuts to us to entice us and buy us over. But we should start saying no to these things. Because if you, because of 5,000 naira or even 1,000 naira in some cases, if you, because of this little amount of money, sell out the country for 4 years, the suffering cannot be, uh, uh, it's not justifiable. It's not justifiable. So we should begin to ask ourselves questions. What are these people doing to divide us, and find ways to stop these kind of things?